Welcome back to the seventh grade mustache. Today we'll be discussing who stole the soul and things of a spiritual nature.
I can dig it. I can dig it.
Lately, I have seen a deficit of soul. I'm not seeing enough soul power, and it's rather disappointing, I must say. Now, in regards to music, there are some people with very powerful souls out there making some good music. Some I like, some I don't like, but I will give it up when I see soul power. Some that come to mind are Chloe and Halle. Even though I
Mm.
don't like Chris Brown, that dude got soul. He got soul for
Yeah.
sure. I'm not a
He
fan of
really
his.
does.
Yeah, he do. But I'm not a fan of his. But hey, bro got soul, man. So yeah, props to him. But I don't see enough displays of it. I see like watered down versions of soul. Like when you look back in time, 10 years, 15 years, there's people like Anthony Hamilton, Jill Scott, Bilal, Music Soul Child. You see these displays of soul power, in the music business, but you don't see a lot of that now. And I think because technology is putting a serious hamper on soul, it sucks your energy out. It's like a power drain. Like you focus all this time and energy on these screens, and you're not using your creative gifts.
I think it's two things that come to mind. I remember when we were a kid and you would see. I saw it on like a Disney movie, but then you really saw it when like they went on like National Geographic went someplace and they were taking the pictures of these natives, and the witch doctor said, "No, we don't want no pictures because every time you take a picture, you take part of my soul." And me and you had a talk 10, 15 years ago about that. I said, "Can you?" I said, "Do you ever think that why these celebrities are so fucked up is because that they have so many pictures taken of them
Mm.
and they're being drained of their soul. Maybe that's why they're such train wrecks. Maybe that's why they need drugs. Maybe they don't realize that they're doing a detriment to themselves." And I think that what's killing the music, and not just music but the people, is the fact that back in the day you had Otis Redding, you had James Brown, you had the staple singers, you had these soul acts, and what it is the Jews or the music, they couldn't quantitate that. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't control it, but they just knew how to market it. And so now you have something completely the opposite, where like when rap first came out, like me and my wife talked about this last night. We were talking about rap, and we're talking about, she was asking, how did I find out the stuff I found out in high school? I said, man, we had different kind of rap music. Our rap music was soul music. Our rap music talked about KRS-One
Hold
said
on, hold on, hold on.
talking.
Stop. Is she asking you how you would hear music?
No. My wife just got into that Hebrew Israelite stuff, and I'm like, and she was asking
Oh,
me, how did I know
Jesus,
about it already?
Louises.
No. But she's asking me, how did I know about it? I'm like, I found out in high school. And she's like, how is it, how is that possible? What were you doing in high school? And I explained to her who introduced me to what. And I'm like, okay, so I was already into rap music. We had KRS-One, we had You Must Learn, and we had that kind of stuff. And they were talking about that. And then I said, I had a teacher, I was taking college courses when I was in high school. And I had a teacher
Bro,
he was Polish.
stop. Yo MTV Raps, BET, right there. Look, you hold on. You're leaving out that important element because, okay,
No,
fine.
I was getting,
Hang on, hang on,
I
hang
was
on, hang
getting
on,
there.
hang on. But the thing is that like there was always, even if you didn't watch BET, even if you didn't watch Yo MTV Raps, there was always music that you would hear in the street. That music you would hear in parties. There were MCs that would come to town to do shows. There was always
Hold it.
music
See,
around.
MTV and BET back then ain't what they are now. They were actually more beholden to the music,
They were
and so
vanguards of culture back then.
yeah, and so when you watch BET and they had Rap Day, and then they build up to Rap Week, and then they build up to actual rap shows. They played all the rap. They didn't. You had Busy B, you had the Furious Five, you had those, but then you also had, like I said, KRS-One, Public Enemies, and things like that. So Def Jeff, they played all that side by side. They played Ice Cube side by side with this other stuff, and so when I had this teacher that was like, hey, he pulled out this book, and I told you the story. You know the story. He pulls out this book and he shows me like, hey, don't you understand this, and this? And he's explaining to me that, okay, if Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian, and the Egyptians raised him. That must have been Moses was black. I said, well, Egyptians aren't black. He's like, no, son. And this is a white guy. He's saying the Egyptians back then don't look like the Egyptians now. Egypt has been invaded. Egypt, the country, is much smaller than Egypt when it was a principality and it was a nation running the world. It was when it was world power. And he's explaining this to me. And he said, so if the original Jews and Hebrews were black, that means Christ was black. And he's breaking all this stuff down. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah. And then he started talking about the music. And then he went to Berkeley. So he went to Berkeley during the Black Panthers. And he's telling me about Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seals. He's telling me about a SNCC, a student nonviolent coalition. He said, yeah, I was in there. He said, and people don't know this. That's the conversation me and you had privately about the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers was started by black and white folks. So whenever these white folks try to compare the Black Panthers to the Klan, like, nah, the only black folks that helped start the Klan was the ones they was lynching. But when it came to
don't even say shit like that, man. Don't even say shit like that.
Yeah, no, we did not participate in starting of the Klan, is what I'm saying. And what you got to understand is that the Black Panthers were not an answer to the Klan.
Okay,
no,
all right. Let me stop you. Let me stop you right here. The reason why soul music sounded the way it did in the 50s, in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, is because there was an obvious struggle. And the thing is that those people that lived in those times encountered serious adversity. And we live in times now of great ease. And because of that, our music is reflected. Listen, hip hop music sounds more like rap music instead of hip hop music now. I'm not going to explain why. You folks are grown, okay? So the reason is because the drugs these MCs are on are pharmaceuticals. They are taking pills, drinking cough syrup, making this retarded ass music, and it sounds like that. Hold on, man. I'm making a point. The singers are Instagram famous. They make their money online. They're worried about social media likes. They're more concerned with being bullied than they are with oppression. You hear it reflected in the music. The way singers sing, listen to the way people sing now. It ain't like woo 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 baby. You don't. It ain't the deep down guttural singing from motherfuckers who spent decades in church. You know what I'm saying? Honing their craft. Now, don't get me wrong. It might be some of those singers out now that started like that, but they don't sound like that now. It's what it is. It's this mumble mouth, whispery kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? And there's some decent songwriting in it. I'm not gonna call it good, but it's all very. It sounds like somebody on heroin. It sounds like somebody on opiates writing music.
What you understand is the soul, the spirituality has been sucked out of it.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, and that was not by accident. What it is before they couldn't control the product. All they could do is market the product, put it out. But now they realize that if we give enough money to certain people, we can pick who comes out. We can pick who's hot.
So look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to grab these people from the dark continent. They're strong. They're resourceful. We're going to have them come to America. We're going to build this place up. We're going to exploit the shit out of them. We're going to enslave them. Eventually, they're going to be free. We're going to make them hate each other. We're going to make them hate their women. We're going to make them beat their women. We're going to get them hooked on drugs and alcohol. They might make some good music. And then we're going to bring along crack, cocaine. Now, this is going to be our slam dunk because then we can take this crack cocaine and we can warp their genetic structure so that the babies that are born without fathers will have no guidance and they'll have no compass and they'll grow with warped genes. And on top of that, you know what else we're going to do with these first and second generation crack babies? We're going to get them hooked along with white America on opiates. And they're going to then be more docile and dominant. And the men will start wearing the color pink. And they'll start wearing really, really tight pants. And they'll become more and more discreetly effeminate. Sound like a good plan?
Look,
It's
you
working.
left something out. You left out. You left out two things I think are very important.
Go.
One, what did your boy Hoover said? We will never have another black Messiah. And so what you did was these people that had to rise up. There was always one or two or three special ones that rose up above everybody else to lead them to the promised land.
And J.
Whether
Edgar
you want to,
Hoover is who you're talking about. And
yes.
this guy, everybody knows his history. He was afraid of a black messiah.
Now, remember, he was the head of the FBI. He ran several presidents, and they said he might have been biracial himself. But what's important is no more black messiahs. And if you listen to what he's saying, that we're not just talking about Malcolm X. We're not just talking about Martin Luther King, who were both killed. We're not just talking about, you want to go as far as Jesus. We're not just talking about Moses. What he's saying is that throughout history, there has been the Messiah that would rise up and topple that power structure. Well, by making everybody addicted, messing up the family structure, removing all these different morals in different places, one, you're killing the soul. That's what, and when we say soul, we mean spirituality. You got to remember this was spiritual, but by killing that, you are guaranteed that no one will ever rise up because you ain't gonna. Our society is designed not to produce anybody worthwhile. When you got the music industry pushing the stuff they're pushing. Like, I know Teddy P was flawed. Let's be honest. Teddy P was flawed, but Teddy P came from a church background with sing and
Say
write
his
things
full
that
name
nobody.
so people know who you're talking about.
Teddy Pendergrass, Marvin Gaye Jr. came from this background. You got to understand, most of his songs were about sex, but when he did that album, what's going on, and that whole album, the ecology, that is spiritual. The people took notice. People changed their habits based on that music.
Right.
So,
So, also, a big problem with music nowadays is that black people stop being innovators. Black people,
yes, yeah.
starting around 2004, started to emulate white rock musicians from the 80s, right?
Not just that. They would imitate other black artists. Whoever was hot
But
is who they
no,
would
I'm
imitate.
hang
They,
on.
they wouldn't
This is
innovate.
the thing. They started emulating white rock musicians, heavy metal acts from the 80s, and you began to see demonic, satanic worship in music videos. These children, these crack babies, these grandchildren of crack babies on these pharmaceuticals, on these pills, began to worship the dark arts. And you began to see it in the music. And that's why we're getting soulless music now, is because these weak minded crack babies on pills are worshiping the devil. Now, the devil has been in the music business from the beginning. He was considered the most beautiful angel that created music.
Beautiful. See, me and you had this talk. People don't understand that. Okay, let's say if Lucifer had a relationship with music in heaven, because the fallen man, that's what the white folks call it. The fallen man is when Lucifer gets kicked out of heaven. He took a third of the host with him. But black people, our story, the story that we have in black churches is different. The story that we have in black churches is Lucifer was the most beautiful angel, and he was the head of the choir. And he felt that the choir should be singing to him. And so when he tried that, God said, "I don't need you around," kicks him out. But he took a third of these angels with you. They became fallen angels. They became demons, whatever you want to call them. So what we're saying, it stands to reason if Lucifer had a relationship with music in heaven, why would he not have a relationship with music on earth when he was cast out? And so that if you ever want to look at an example, it's called LV syndrome, lead vocalist syndrome. How many bands were broken up because of lead vocalists? Because the lead vocalist might not write the music, but he's a guy in the forefront. He thinks he should be getting more money.
There's another
He should be
word for
getting.
that. It's called greed.
Yeah, I know that, but we call it. But when you look at these classic groups, Van Halen, Van Hagar, whatever you want to call them, the lead vocalist, David Lee Roth was like, "Nah, man, he didn't write the music. He wasn't the talented one. He was just the face." You saw it in the Beatles breakup. All these different breakups would always have to do with the person in the forefront thinking they were better than they were. Who was the one with the Temptations? Or
Oh,
remember who
Eddie,
called the
Eddie, what you call it?
I can't
I know you're
forgive me.
talking
I
about
can't
the
remember.
Five Heartbeats was
Was
about them.
based on that.
Hmm.
And so you have this
Eddie Ruffin,
guy, Eddie Ruffin, didn't write all the music. He only did lead on 1/3 of the songs. He wasn't even the lead
David
singer
Ruffin,
because they didn't have
David Ruffin. I'm sorry, David Ruffin.
David Ruffin. And so he thought it should be called David Ruffin and they're like, nah, bro, shoot, this dude right here writing the music, this dude right here writing the songs. We do lead, half the time, but that's what that LV syndrome does to you. When you're the lead vocalist, look, here's what we're saying is that the spirituality has been sucked out of the music, but we ain't just talking about music. We're talking about in general that there used to be a thing called soul, and you break it down, Roscoe. When you talking about the way certain people walk, you knew that dude had soul. You knew that dude had something.
Yes,
Or you
yes,
see
yes.
you
You would
see a woman.
see a dude walking, but like, look at that brother's walk. He got
That's right.
style. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Brothers
if you
ain't
saw a
don't have
woman,
a walk no more. Nobody walks with like swagger. Nobody walks with style anymore. The only way you see black men show swagger is in the way they dress or the way they cut their hair. They not doing anything to show that they are like, this is me, this is who I am, this is me expressing who I am through my physical body language. That's gone.
and the reason it's gone, like okay, my father is one of these people that you can't tell when he's joking. Not because he's so serious, it's because he says anything. Like I remember one time, my uncle was telling me like, "Hey, I remember at one time your dad had planted some beer cans in the back. He really wanted a beer tree to grow." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "You can never tell when your dad is joking. That's soul." That I remember when black people would talk a certain way, and you didn't know. I couldn't talk that way, but I knew exactly what they were saying. Like my uncle Bussy. My uncle, yeah, you use some penetrating oral, and you need this, and you need to do this. And I'm like, it's not really English he's speaking. He's speaking from his soul. And so we have criticized our people for so long. You call it ebonics, you call it all this other shit, but it's soul. These people talk from their soul. So so when you saw this, I'm not just talking preachers, but when a preacher would get up there and talk from the soul, like a real preacher, I'm not talking about these money grabbing, whoremongering motherfuckers. I'm talking about a real minister that was out there for his people, like nah, and they would talk. You couldn't, you can't, you can't can that. You can't quantitate that. You can't. It's no way to describe it. And but when he speaks or she speaks from her soul, they're speaking to your soul. You have a response that you
There's
can't describe.
there's only two people alive that I consider my elders, and one of them is Harry Belafonte. When he talks, you can hear everything he's experienced.
You can see it
It
visually
it
as he
comes
speaks.
across in his voice. It comes across in his face. He's been alive long enough to see a lot of stuff. Man, listen, let's talk about soul power. Let's talk about athletic soul power. Okay, let's talk about Paul Robeson for a second.
Mm,
Paul Robeson, this guy, this guy was an actor, and before that, he was an athlete.
yeah,
I'm
I know.
laughing. I'm laughing, y'all, because this guy was in beast mode all the time. He was an athlete when there was football with leather helmets. When he didn't have a D line to block for him, he was the D line and he was the offense.
Offensive, he was everything. Look, what my brother is saying is you got Paul Roberson, who was a stand-up man no matter what. And he was a physical specimen, but he was also a mental specimen. He was the best at his craft. Played Othello. He did all these different things, and then he like again, me and my brother, we ain't big on this communist socialism stuff, but he pretty much lost his career because he's like, look, communism might be the way to go for black
Listen, he
folks.
went hard on the things that he believed in.
Period.
And
Point
he
blank. You couldn't.
believed in the people. He believed in justice. And this guy was an athlete, he was an actor, he was a singer. He was he was a renaissance man. And he did this in a time when it was horrendously unpopular to speak out. And he
He
gave
was a person of
zero
color
fucks.
too.
He gave zero
He
fucks about the
yes.
consequences.
And, you. There was nobody above him. You couldn't say there's no white man or white woman that could sit across from him and believe they were better than him because it couldn't happen. Just by his speaking, he's like he had that deep, powerful voice, and he's like, "Your people have been doing this to my people, and so why? How do you come to me with that dumb question? Why would you even ask me that question?" He made it so logical that. The most racist white person would be like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good point, man. I guess you're right." So, and the reason we bring because that is soul power. That's soul.
Word.
He was deeply spiritual in a way that you don't understand because your people are afraid. Um, Me and Roscoe were talking about. I did a Facebook post because I'm so sick of people running this down to everybody saying we are not our ancestors, white people. You're not going to do to us what you did to them. And I'm like, that is the most
Yo,
disrespect.
yo, yo. That statement right there bugs the shit out of me because first of all, you soft noodle body, weak ass jellyfish mind motherfucker, you. How dare you disrespect the ancestors in that way and their struggle? When your ass is walking around in comfortable ass shoes, these people marched miles in dress shoes. And you couldn't walk 2 miles in some fucking Air Max with a busted air pocket. Okay, I don't want to hear this shit about you're not your fucking ancestors because your punk ass wasn't alive at that time. See, hindsight is 2020. It's so
It's very
fucking
clear.
easy
It's very
to
clear.
say
Yeah.
woulda, shoulda, coulda. Well, that's good for hand grenades, horseshoes, and shotguns. That's what that's good for. Don't talk shit about people who have died already and you weren't there to go through it. It's real easy to do that shit.
Look, what people don't understand is how powerful the media is and how racist the media has been over the years. But the whole idea that there weren't slave revolts. Every time you do your research, you find another 15 slave revolts you didn't know about.
How about
You
how about we
find
talk
you find
about the Ashanti people? How about they had to watch those people because those are the ones that would jump over the damn side of the ship. They would jump
they
ship any chance they would get.
they believe in reincarnation. So they believe like, oh, or how many of the kings, queens fought the Europeans, sent money over here, and did all kinds of things you don't know about. So to sit here and say, I'm not my, what you're trying to say is that, okay, slavery happened, and you ain't gonna treat me like them. No, y'all don't understand how many black folks died for us and how many black folks killed for us. And my whole point to that statement was, I get sick of these people talking about you ain't gonna do, you won't even fight your baby daddy or the police or this person. You won't even fight your actual oppressor. You won't even fight your neighbor. You'll fight on World Star, but you ain't going to fight the oppressor. You're not going to go to Congress and march. You're not going to go to the local legislature and do anything. But you quick to say we're in our ancestors. So my problem with that is after Reconstruction, we had more black judges, senators, congressmen. We had so many black everything that you wouldn't believe, and that's men and women. And the idea that you can compare to that, like right now, you got people afraid to speak up. Now they'll speak on Facebook and call somebody a bitch, but these people had shotguns, had guns in their face, they had dogs sicked on them, they had fire hoses, they had people police beating them in the head, and this is all of them. And so the idea that we ain't our ancestors, that's right, because you ain't half the man or woman that your ancestor was.
Listen, if you were to be transported back into time and you would shake hands with one of those people, the
They would
bones in
crush
your
you.
hand would be crushed into powder because they worked with their hands hard every day. Your ass can't even walk around with a backpack with 30 pounds in it, let alone lift and carry some of the loads these people had to carry and lift every day. You work in some soft ass air conditioned environment, driving around in vehicles made of plastic, steel, and glass. Get the fuck out of here, man. Like I don't want to hear people telling me like how hard they was gonna be back in the day. You not hard now.
Look, let's talk about soul. One of the places that one of our leaders always had soul is the heavyweight champ of the world. Now we all, it's easy to talk about Muhammad Ali, but in boxing, you had the pound for pound. You had Sugar Ray Robinson. And let's go all the way back to Jack Johnson.
Dude,
That
Sugar Ray Leonard He wasn't even a heavyweight, but he has soul, man.
Neither was Sugar Ray Robinson, but he had soul. He whooped people. There's a story that Sugar Ray Robinson went to a priest for confession, and he said he had a dream that his next fight that he's going to kill the guy. And the priest said, "Don't worry, son. Repent this, and this, and go out there." Well, what do you think happened? He killed that man in the ring, just like his dream said he would.
Yeah.
That's soul. He was that connected. Like, look, this guy doesn't stand a chance with me. Jack Johnson was one of our greatest heroes, heavyweight champ, slept with white women, sped around in cars. They were saying back in the day, he would stop by the police, and they would try to get him for transporting white women over the border, over state lines. They would stop him for speeding, and you know what they said? They said they would charge him $500 for speeding. This is back in was it like the 30s, whatever? Or, no, it's not going to go in that. 1800, whatever it is, and they would charge him $500 back then for speeding. You know what he would do? He'd give him $1,000 because he said, "Look, nigga, I'm speeding back, so you might as well take the money now." That's soul. You got to understand that when somebody has soul and they ain't afraid, even if you oppress them, you can't oppress them. You can't beat that.
James Brown was before our time, but I can easily appreciate the soul in his music because number one, he put out a song that said, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." A song that can still be sung today in the year 2020, especially. They were singing this song at a protest weeks ago. And the crazy part about this, there were U.S. soldiers that were there, right? There were soldiers, and they had somebody took their phone out and recorded this brother in uniform mouthing the words to the rest of the protesters saying, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." He was a soldier in uniform and he was still saying that, bruh.
Look, James Brown is a prime example of somebody talking that soul stuff. You don't know what the hell James was saying. Nobody knew. Only the people that worked with James knew what the hell he meant. But once he sang, you knew exactly what he was saying. Hot pants. You knew what he meant.
But it wasn't just what he said. It was the way that he said it, and it was the way that he would move on stage. You felt the soul. You felt it come through the music, through his performance. He was called the Godfather of Soul. Rest in peace. The Godfather of Soul.
The hardest working man in show business.
Yes.
You can't beat that,
dude. Listen, if y'all want to get a little slice of JB, you need to watch the documentary When We Were Kings, and it's about Ali and the Rumble in the Jungle. But there was a concert that was put on, and this concert had all these soul singers from the U.S. go to Africa and perform. And you see James Brown sweating his ass off, just getting down, performing, and you feel it. You feel it come through the screen, even though you're watching something that was shot like in the early '70s. You know what I'm saying?
72 or 77.
72. Like but it was still powerful. It's still powerful, and that's what I'm saying. It transcends time. I'm not the whole point, the reason I'm bringing this up is that I'm not seeing these transcendental performances anymore. Even if you go to these people's concerts, it's the vibe. Yeah, okay, a live performance is a live performance, I get that, but I'm talking about something that moves you, truly. There's a handful out there that can do this, that they can they can transport their audiences, but there's not many anymore.
Look, go back to When We Were Kings. When they show the documentary, and you got to pay attention, they say when somebody's being honest, it's really difficult. They were saying okay, we had all these black people from America that wanted to do the concert, so you had a lot of acts that they didn't know how to put together because they had BB King win, and they man, BB King is all these blues. That's not what's it no more, and they were trying to figure out how to place them in there. And they said BB went out there and performed like you wouldn't believe. He played Lucille, and it took over the crowd. Everybody who went to Africa for that concert did some amazing stuff. And then remember when that female that was like a witch doctor was dancing, people they tell these stories. That is soul. that is spiritual. But we're trying people we have got away so what we're trying to tell you guys, or what we're trying to push out there is that we've got so far away from the spirituality of things that everything is about money. Everything is about that instant gratification,
Let
or how can this
let's stay on sports for a second. One seminal figure comes to mind, and what it is his performances were so hypnotic, so transcendental when he would get on the court that people still talk about him and they wear his shoes to this day. Michael Jordan played with soul, and he played with so much soul that it was hypnotic to watch this dude play, to watch him take over a game. Man, I watched the Last Dance. I watched all the episodes, and I love it. I love it. It's a great documentary. But the thing is that I remember now. I remember seeing these games when they were like actually being televised and being hypnotized because this guy played with all of his soul. He wasn't just a mental ball player. He played with his full being, and you could see it. You could see it. It was evident. And there are athletes like that, that when they are in their arena, when they're in their realm, in their zone, they are transcendental. There are some of those. There were track stars that were like that. When they would run, when they would move, it's not just because they were fast. It's because
Flo
the aura
Flojo? Don't
of their
remember
spirit
remember
was just
remember Flojo?
flowing
She was
all
like that.
around. Yes,
When you yeah,
graceful.
look
Lynn
look
Swan, the football player.
look when when they talk about when we were kings, and that's actually when Ali was fighting Foreman. Ali didn't stand a chance. People don't understand. Ali never stood a chance against Foreman. Foreman was killing people. He beat the shit out of Rob Loud. Foreman had fought three guys in one night, like a wrestling match. He knocked all three of them out, there, and he destroyed Frazier. Foreman beat Frazier so bad. When you watch, if you get a chance, watch the George Foreman Joe Frazier fight. He actually dribbled him like a basketball with one hand. So think of this. Think of Ali going to Africa to fight this man. Nobody thought Ali would win. So when you watch the documentary, when you watch the fight, when you watch the other documentaries about that fight with Foreman and Ali, they said that day Ali was a god. They didn't call him a boxer. They didn't call him champ. They said that is God. He was a boxing god. So that's how Michael Jordan was. Look, if we ain't talking about Jordan off the court, we talk about Jordan on the court. When he had the ball, he willed himself to victory. Now, look, now everybody they forget the old days when he couldn't beat Detroit or they couldn't beat LA back in the day.
But he
But at the end of
transcended. But he
that's
transcended
that's
all of
my
that.
point.
And the crazy part. Now listen, this is the thing. Not only did he become this great player, he became a great leader because he saw that. Listen, if I'm going to beat these guys, I need help, and he elevated everybody that was on that team.
Now look, now we know now because of Last Dance, Jordan might have been a jerk. We ain't
So
talking
what?
about that. We
Listen,
talk.
listen, listen,
Well,
listen, listen. Assholes, listen. Assholes win. Okay, assholes win. Nice guys do not win championships. But listen,
that ain't true. There's several nice guys that won
yeah,
championships.
fuck
That's
out,
not
get
what
the
I'm
fuck out
saying.
of here with
Well,
that shit. Get the fuck out of here with that
what
shit.
I'm telling you is on the court, when that thing snapped, when that thing went, you can't describe it. When that happened, you, ain't nobody beating that man that day. And people talk about Kobe, they talk about LeBron. I'm a LeBron fan, whatever. But you got to understand that when somebody transcends, like a track and field, you remember when you saw them put their black fist up. There's something about these things, these performances, these virtuoso performances, whether it's on the court, whether it's on the stage. I, I got a funny story for you. You just said, like, hey, Chris Brown got sold, but I'm not a fan. Well, I went to go see Chris Brown in Lincoln, and we met him backstage. I was driving, trying to find a place to park, and he's out there on a four-wheeler. He's talking, and we talking to him. He's cool as hell. But the thing was, I went to his concert, and dude had hits. Dude was moving. Dude, that's soul. You can't quantitate that. You don't know who can do. You can't just look at somebody and tell who has soul and who don't. Michael Jackson has soul. We forget what Mike did back in the day, because he's gone. He was known for being a wacko jack and all that. But Michael Jackson had soul. We are the world. Remember when they did that? There were so many different times that Mike entertained us, or Mike tapped into something primal, and
Quincy Jones.
you can't put your finger on
Quincy Jones produced a lot of those hits.
produced.
And
Yes,
soul, man. Soul through and through. The thing is, man, is that like there's a lot to draw on from the past, but what we're talking about is the present now. And so I want to say that people aren't lost. There's a way to gain that back. There's a way to tap into that. But it takes spirit power, right? And
oh,
so go ahead.
okay, let's talk about what you're saying. Right now, people are so afraid to be individuals or be themselves because they don't want to get in trouble, or they don't want to do this, or they don't want to go to Facebook jail. And the idea is that what gave them soul is they were themselves in spite of that, in spite of the consequence. And don't get me wrong, you got some dumbasses out there, but that's the problem. Back in the day, you had people that had something worth saying or something worth doing, and they would rise above the situation. You know, Muhammad Ali, 3 times world champ. There's no way he should have beat George Foreman. So when you do that, when you see that, that inspires you. The reason I have brought up Jack Johnson is not just because of the soul, is because that whenever Jack Johnson won, whenever you would beat that white man, they would lynch us. But we still supported that man because we knew, like, hey, this dude is the shit. You ain't gonna intimidate me. Fine, if you kill me, cool. But you ain't gonna take my spirit. You can't take my soul. You don't have that power. When you see them Haitians that ain't afraid to die, boy, oh boy, the Haitian Revolution is big to them. That soul power, that that we're the only nation in the Caribbean or in North America that whooped the oppressor. We're the only nation that did this. We're the only nation that did that. When you got that commonality, same thing with Jamaicans. Them some crazy motherfuckers, but like those Rastas, those mountain men, they don't eat meat. They worship the Old Testament. That's all spiritual. They are afraid of those people. They're afraid of the maroon people up there in the mountains. White folks is afraid of that, and so it pains me that in America that we don't have these old black men and these old black women who talk the way they used to talk back in the day, talking riddles and rhymes and shit. Because they weren't communicating in the King's English does not mean you're not intelligent. Just because you don't do things a certain way doesn't mean that you don't have anything to offer. And we're so afraid that we all want to be millionaires, so we conform. Stop conforming, because they can't. Your soul is not a commodity. You know what I'm saying? And me and you had this
Yeah,
talk.
you're saying something real right there, man, because in conforming, you lose something. You
Yeah.
lose pieces of your soul. And it starts as far back as the Native Americans say, hey, man, you ain't about to take my picture. And the thing is
Uh-huh.
that, yo, how many people take selfies? How many people are in love with images of themselves? And
They want to
it
be
it
famous. They
and,
don't
and
care
it
about the
comes
consequence.
across as being empty, and it comes across as being soulless. Like you know what, when a person like wants to show me like a bunch of pictures of themselves, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm standing in front of you. Like, I can see you, you're right here in front of me. Like, I'm cool. The thing is that people are giving away their power. They're giving their
Hmm.
power away, and they have to take it back. They have to learn how to tap into that power. But it starts on a primal level. See, the primal nature is very important. The primal nature is the soul. The primal nature is the elements of your basic being.
It's
And
honest. It's
it's
honesty.
real and it's unedited. People talk about, oh, people don't like me because I'm unedited and this and that. No, all you're doing is just copying behaviors you've seen on TV
Other people do.
shows,
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
think it's
Look,
cute. That's all it is. That's not being raw. That's not being unedited, and that's not being primal.
yeah, being offensive for the sake of offending somebody is the same thing as being honest when you recognize something like, hey, nah, bro, this, I'm honest. She's honest. no, they don't care about the consequence. You know, when you at church and there's an old black woman that say something like, you know, if you keep sleeping with other men, that's why the shit ain't working for you. And you're like, what? She called the girl a hoe in a nice way. Like, you know, you got six baby fathers. That poor mailman don't know who to deliver the mail to. Everybody got different last names. Well, that right there, you know, that's her. She's telling you, like, you need to change your ways, or maybe you wouldn't have all these problems.
And just have a
Or
little more spiritual resolve, and it's a little bit self
and
control.
people don't understand that. And so, but then you got somebody like they call themselves, like you said, being raw, or what they're trying to do is bag on somebody or make you feel lower. That's not the same thing. You know, it's okay. It's one thing if I offend you on purpose. It's another thing if I'm just being honest with you and you get offended. They're two different situations, and you got to recognize that. Okay, somebody be honest, like, hey, duct tape. You know what, man? You need to brush your tongue. Your breath smells. Like, oh, I might have got offended, but that person just helped me. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference. There are people trying to help you, and there are people trying to hurt you and make themselves feel better. You got to be able to distinguish between the two. And, you know, we're talking to spirit. When we say soul, we're talking about this spirituality that people don't understand. Like, people talk about, I have a soul. And you guys heard us say this before. You are a soul. You have a body. And nobody wants to understand what that means is that you are downgrading yourself.
Right.
People love to talk.
Check this out. So one time I considered getting a tattoo, and I considered getting a tattoo of an Egyptian ankh in golden ink on the outside of my body. And I said, you know what? I came to my senses. I said, that's pretty fucking stupid. Why would I get a symbol of eternal life on the outside of my body? That was the end of that. I didn't realize how dumb that shit is.
I remember I was going to get, you know, you know me, I'm a big Transformer fan, so I was going to go ahead and get me the Autobot symbol and till all are one on my back, and I'm about to go do it, and this chick is like, why would you get something like that? That's old. I'm like, okay, look, it has nothing to do with it being old or 1983 or 84.
And number one, bitch, it ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't for you. Point. I'm not getting this to impress you. I'm getting this because it's for me.
You must understand that some things have significance only to the person that has it. It's a 7th grade mustache. Figure it out. And people don't understand that, you know, not everything I do is for them. Not everything I do is for public consumption. And that's a big problem right now. When you see these videos on Facebook where people are disciplining their kids, you know, and I'm like, did they go too far? I'm like, that wasn't meant for public consumption.
Right. Exactly.
When you see these people and they're taking baths with their children, and why are you filming that? You know that.
Right.
How do you feel about this?
Church, 100%. Like, that ain't none of your business.
And what I'm saying, ain't nobody touching no little kid. Ain't nobody doing nothing wrong. That's just a family having fun. And whoever took the picture, they probably took a picture. You know, I got baby pictures of me in the tub. Those pictures, that's not meant for public consumption. No. That's meant for family.
That's personal. That's personal.
Nobody has a personal life anymore, and that's a big part of people losing their souls. And me and my wife had this conversation. We were talking about spirituality, talking about religion, talking about this. I said, look, again, this is something else that we said early on the program. So if you heard it before, please forgive me. If from a European point of view, you learn this in college. You go to sociology class. The first week in sociology class, you learn that religion is a tool that's used by the bourgeoisie to control the proletariat. The bourgeoisie is the ruling class. The proletariat is the working class. And so you always get these black folks that they hit you with that shit because religion is nothing but a tool for the you don't need religion. I'm like, okay, but that's a European point of view, brother, and you're not European. So from an African point of view, religion is a tool to reach a higher form of spirituality.
There it is.
So you need religion is a stepping stone. And again, like I said, we talked about this other day, like, you know, it's like baby food and steak. A baby will have a problem chewing up a steak because he ain't got no teeth, so you give it baby food. Religion is baby food. A lot of the stuff in the Bible's parable, a lot of the stuff in the Bible really took place. And you need to understand that as you advance spiritually, that you're going to leave some of that stuff behind. And you're going to get closer and closer to Elohim. You're getting closer and closer to God. And that's what the point of this is for you to get closer to that higher power. And as you get more and more higher, that you become more and more divine. The reason we were talking about Muhammad Ali being a god is because his performance was a god performance. He was a god of boxing that day. The day he beat George Foreman, the aesthetic, it was beautiful. So
And
what
so,
you
music, when you see a soul singer, when you watch a performance by a soul singer, they transport you into the spirit realm. That you forget that you are in a body for a moment,
it's a
and
natural high. You can't
it's a
describe it.
natural high, and you are taken into the spirit realm in mass. Everyone is, and that is one of those moments that is hard to replicate, but it does happen, and it has happened many times before, and that's why
I'm,
these great performers are revered for what they do on stage.
People don't admire them. See, that's the problem right now. You got people who are famous for just being famous, the Kardashians and
See,
things like that.
soulless entertainment.
And so what happens is that when they see Beyonce, they're admiring her because she's famous. They're not admiring her talent. But when you watch Michael, when you watch Richard Pryor, when you watch these people who are the best at that thing, you can never aspire to be that person, but you can enjoy their shit on another level. I remember one time I was in high school, and oh boy, I ain't gonna say his name. The dude was high as fuck. He's like, man, Ren, I need your help. I'm like, excuse me. He said, Ren, I need your help. I'm like, what's going on? Man, don't you see Papa Smurf on my shoulder? I'm like, what? He won't stop talking to me. He said, man, he said I was so high. He said I could see sounds and I can hear colors. And he was telling me that the color blue was cool and was real metal, but the color red was yelling at him. And I'm like, my God, what the fuck is wrong with you? But that's what you mean when you talk about these spiritual performances. They transport you someplace else. And I can't use drugs to do it. But when you see these performances, whether it's on the basketball court, whether it's in the boxing ring, whether it's James Brown performing, it the music transports you. If you watch that documentary When We Were Kings right now, and you start watching those performances on there, they will transport you to Kinshasa, Zaire, and you become part of it, even though you ain't there. It will make you want to go. That's what soul power is. Soul
Listen,
power.
listen. Motown 25. Oh
Mm,
my God. Listen, for those
moonwalker.
listening to this, you need to watch it. Get the DVD. All right, just buy it and own a copy because you have to understand what happened that night. Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, they were all on the same stage one night. Michael Jackson moonwalked for the first time, and it was fucking incredible. You had never seen anything like this before. This is like this is
You
the
in your
beginning of
living room and
breakdancing.
you've
So like
lost your mind.
motherfuckers are breakdancing and shit. And you saw Michael Jackson moonwalk, and he looked like he was just walking on wet glass.
Man, people lost their minds. You can't describe that. You can't
It was
understand that.
incredible. It was incredible. But that's the thing, man. It's like these moments you are taken to another place by people that are at the top of their game, but they are at the top of their game because of several ingredients. They work hard, they have focus, and they are in tune with who they are, their spiritual being. They know who they are. They don't
Look,
question it. They ain't got to read a self help book about this. They
no,
know who
no.
they are.
When you sit here and listen to Martin Luther King, I have a dream speech. We all know that one. It's stirring, it's moving, it makes sense. Like, okay, that's just logical. When you listen to these Malcolm X speeches, the bullet or the ballot, you can pick anyone because Malcolm had a bunch of them. When you listen to these old speeches of Muhammad Ali talking to these white folks, explaining to them how absurd racism is and how absurd it is for you to have a problem with me for not letting you oppress me. See, Ali just got out there and said, "You cannot oppress me. You can't whip me physically. You can't whip me financially. You cannot oppress me, and I do not need your approval to be this shining star who I am. I don't need your approval to shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." He let his shit blow them, blind the motherfuckers. And
But you know
so,
what? That's why the term Black Lives Matter fits for today because these are people. This generation of people needs approval. They need participation
Yes.
awards. They need
Oof.
they need to be validated. So you're saying that we matter. I don't need anybody else to validate my existence. I
Look,
don't need that. So like that's
I
why
keep telling
that
folks, look,
term sounds like it fits from people that live in this time.
the whole idea that a white person validates me is a big problem. The whole idea that when I'm telling folks like, look, y'all need to get guns, you might get shot. I'm like, I might get shot without one. I just want to be able to shoot back. When you sit here, they mystify white folks. They put them on all these black folks that are so pro-black are putting white folks on a pedestal. No, no, you can't do that. We don't need guns. Like shit. Why don't we? What I'm saying is you only have a couple things you can do to alter the situation, and I'm trying to alter the dynamic. And as a black person, I've dealt with police officers with guns, and I dealt with police officers without guns. They give me way more respect once they see that gun. They give me way more respect when they see your CCW. Now we know about the Philando Castile situation in Minnesota, and it was a sad one. But when you look at the harassment of that man, like I said, we've talked about that before. Let's go back. This is about soul. This is about people having the resolve to shine the light that part of God that's in you, displaying that for everyone to see and being the best at something. When you tap into that, I remember you said the singleness of mind when somebody has that ultimate focus. You know that you're tapping into that God light. You're tapping into that power, and people are afraid of that. They're afraid of being the best. They're afraid of doing everything they can and failing. Fuck failing. Failing it doesn't matter. All you can do is do what you do best. And when you do that shit, I don't care what you are. I don't care if you're the best janitor in the world, the best trash man. I want to see you. That's the idea that anybody is less than anybody else is a problem. When you're
Right.
like, okay,
So
he's a
you're
heavyweight
speaking
champ.
about self-worth and identity. And self-worth is so important. It's incredibly
Mm,
important listen, it will inform you to that you cannot depend on
deny.
others
Mm.
to create an image of yourself. You don't need others to validate your existence because in
Nobody
doing so,
defines you.
nobody defines you but you. But in doing so, you build personal power. Let's talk about personal power for a second. Personal power are these chunks, are these nuggets of chi power that you accumulate in your life experience. Now, previous generations, our ancestors, they built boulders of chi power, of personal power through struggle and perseverance. Let me highlight what I just said there struggle and perseverance. There's one and the other. You have one, which is the process, and then you
Mm.
have what comes after, which is
The
the
reward.
results, the reward, because you have to persevere. There's no point in celebrating a person that's just a victim. Why not celebrate people that were victims who persevered and overcame? Now, listen,
Overcame.
I'm not
Mm.
saying be unsympathetic. That's not what I'm saying. Do not misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm saying that, sure, you're a victim, but you have to have the power to overcome because in doing so, you create an experience which gives you power, which you then can draw upon, which then at your time of death will be fuel to take you all the way into heaven. Do you understand what I'm saying to you people? Personal power is your gateway to heaven. Personal power will reunite you with your ancestors so that when you finally make it back to the afterlife, they can look at you and say, well done. You did your best and it shows. That
Look,
is what soul power is. That's a
mm,
main component of soul power is that these life experiences, your struggle, no matter what it is, no matter how hard or easy it may seem, you still have some form of struggle. You have to push through obstacles and get beyond them. You cannot wait on somebody to pat you on the fucking back because nobody cares. Okay? Life will not give you a participation award, okay? Other people do that. They're going to pity you. But life
Look,
doesn't pity you. Karma is a motherfucker, all right?
they, they only care if you kick ass. If you kick ass, people won't care. But if you don't kick ass and you cower down, and that's what makes it so difficult. How these protesters and how I feel about this situation and that situation. All I'm trying to tell you is stop being a victim to the circumstance
Say that.
and
Say that right there.
stop being a victim to that circumstance and show your power. And I'm telling people like, hey, y'all need to carry guns. They're telling me, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, they're killing you anyway. See, here's the problem with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. They killed both of them. They both got killed. One said nonviolence. One said by any means necessary. They killed them both. Now, if what you're saying
How do
is
you want
true,
to go out?
if what you're saying is true, then Martin would still be alive and Malcolm would be dead. No, they're both dead. And now the truth is, we all know this. Your boy Martin got pretty militant towards the end, so that might be what got him killed. Talking about the war and all this other stuff. But what I'm saying is that you can't be afraid of the truth. We run from the truth because we want to sit here and be celebrities. Fuck celebrity. I don't want to be famous. I want to be infamous. You know what I'm saying? I want to be that Malcolm X nigga. I want to be that motherfucker that hey, y'all saw what that nigga did? And that's the issue, is that we're searching for approval from somebody who will never give it to you. That's like somebody with
Yeah.
daddy issues.
Yeah.
You'll never get,
Yes. Now you're talking about some serious stuff because these
you're,
psychological issues that people are looking to act out in the public are what's really going on.
look, a lot of that shit is private and that should be resolved privately. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to bring this up, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like they're talking about Jada Pinkett and August Alsina and all this stuff. That's a private conversation. Why is that conversation being had publicly? Well, why are people
because
judging that?
because she chose to talk about it in the public and she's using a public forum just the same way the Kardashians do to air all their dirty laundry to make money off of it. And she saw an opportunity. Hang on, she saw an
I think it
opportunity.
was him. I
Hang
think
on.
uh,
She saw an opportunity to address this publicly and make money off of this. Listen to me. The fact that she and he are talking about this in the public means that they are both whores for attention and they're opportunists. Okay?
I think I
That's your
think he came
personal
out
life
first.
and you listen. He's a clown. Okay?
Yeah,
He's a clown.
that's my point. That's my point.
But this is
I
what I'm
think I
saying. What
think
I'm
he came
saying
out.
is that these people need public approval
Approval.
so that they feel like they can be validated so that they can do whatever it takes to like pick themselves up and be infamous. And see, they're being infamous in the exact opposite way of what you were just saying. These people are not freedom fighters. Not at all. These people are on a plantation and they want to genuflect to Massa so bad because they feel that he will give them this daddy attention that they so deserve. That they don't have enough soul power to keep their fucking mouth shut and just live their lives quietly, personally, as opposed to airing all their dirty laundry
Dirty laundry.
and getting likes and clicks and endorsements. This is the total opposite of what soul power is. Now we're talking. This is the total opposite of what this is the polar opposite of soul power.
But that's the problem. People admire that. People have an opinion on that. That is a distraction. Look,
Talk about it. Tell it. Tell it.
not
Tell it.
everything needs a comment, and
Come
that's a
on.
distraction
Make it
because
plain.
right now they're drawing your attention for more important things. Well, we have several black folks get killed. We have several black on black crimes, but right now you talking about August and Jada. We're talking about we'll let that happen. We're talking about no, that is distraction. That's until you recognize what a distraction is and what it pulls you from. It pulls your energy. It pulls your spirit. It pulls from way more important things. Like we talking about Black Lives Matter. I hate that. I hate the way it is, but it's a good thing to cling to. Look, I matter. My life matters. You shouldn't be killing black folks by accident this much. You know what I'm saying? You've heard me say it
Hey,
before.
listen, ain't that
Yeah,
many black murder accidents? Okay, all right.
no, you can't accidentally shoot that many guns, break that many necks, or do that many chokeholds. You can't. It's not possible. So the idea that they want to outlaw the chokehold, that is crazy. But
Well,
it's
how about
it's a
the
necessity.
cops that killed Elijah McClain were at his memorial taking photographs, mocking him with photographs of them doing the chokehold on each other.
See. Okay, this is what I'm explaining to black folks when I tell you that you need to have a gun because I'd have shot them. If you were mocking my loved one and I'm right there, I'd have shot you. I would have said that I felt threatened. Like, hey, I thought they were going to do it to me, and I would have gave them all a brain transplant. You dig? So you need to understand they would have got lead poisoning, and so but that's soul power. That right there is soul power. There's a video back in the day of this guy in the air. This is before we had cameras and stuff. The guy was in the airport. The guy had kidnapped the 12-year-old boy, raped him, and killed him. The father was hiding over there by a payphone. And when the police and the reporters marched this guy in the airport, the dad turns around from the payphone and flies to this guy's dome, 38 special, this man's dome, and killed him. That's soul power. He don't care. He don't care about the consequence.
No, he's
That
not worried about it at all.
yeah, that white man said, "Okay, I got some justice for your ass. You killed my son. You tortured my. I don't know what my baby boy went through, but I know what's going to go through you. A 38 special, my nigga, a 357. Whatever the hell he had, it was a revolver. But that's my point. We are so worried about the consequences, and we're so worried about how Master sees us that we're not doing real protests. Like if you kill one of mine, if like I told you, like I went to the Malcolm X birth site and we were protesting George Floyd at the time because I don't think the other young lady had happened yet, and I had two guns on me. I'm like, look, if something go down, if if the Klan shows up, I'm shooting. I'm not negotiating. This whole idea of running back to my car to get my weapon, that's for the motherfuckers. You
Right,
understand me?
right.
So if somebody, the same thing I told you guys about those people in St. Louis. We were talking about them back protesting at them people's house. If that woman had pointed a gun at my wife, I would have shot both of them. And I'm a peaceful protester. I'm protesting peacefully, but I ain't going there without my gun. Stop going places without your gun. Get your gun license. Be able to protect yourself because oh, well, they were peaceful. One, these protesters be talking shit. Don't ever get it twisted. You got everybody talking shit. Everybody likes that shit now. But if somebody points a gun at my friends, my family, my wife, my kids, I'm shooting them. Just so y'all know, because that's the problem. These white folks ain't afraid of the consequences. They know that we can do what we want. Ain't nobody gonna do nothing to us. But like I told you, that man in the airport wasn't afraid of the consequence either. He's like,
No, he
you
wasn't.
hurt my son.
But in closing, the thing I want people to focus on is that you are doing things. All of us are doing things that weaken our soul, that take away from our soul power. And we need to understand what those things are. We need to understand that by having more resolve in these times, being more genuine in these times, speaking out and fighting against oppression in these times builds your soul power. Do things that you know will make you stronger and you will increase in soul power. Be true to yourself. Speak the truth. Even if you are afraid of the consequences, have faith. Because guess what? Having faith is soul power. And I really mean that. I've seen so many people in these past 2 months without faith talking about, they're afraid of catching, COVID-19, coronavirus, worrying about this and that. And I'm like, aren't you a Christian? Aren't you a good Muslim? Aren't you a good Jew? Aren't you a good Hindu? What you worried about? Don't you got faith? Where's your soul at? What's up with your soul? Check your soul, homie. Don't you believe in anything? Don't you have faith in anything? And that's the whole problem. These people were so drained of soul power because they had spent it all staring at these stupid little devices, worried about
Mm.
being accepted, worried
Taking
about
selfies,
confirmation.
wanting to be famous.
Yeah, yeah. And look what it's done. Look
Look,
how much it's weakened everybody. You know?
look. There's nothing to talk about until you. Everything you do is an action. So talking ain't enough. You have to do stuff. But the problem is, people are so ignorant they don't know what to do. So when you pray, sometimes you just got to ask for insight. You got to ask for your ancestors to guide you. You got to ask God for insight, and that's what's happening. Nobody wants to tap into that soul power,
You know
but
what? You know what? Because there's a lot of confusion. And so people have been bullied into not even using the word God. This
mhm,
they've been so worried about offending atheists. They're so worried about offending people who may not even be the same religion. Well, guess what? There is a God, people. There is. And whether or not you believe him, you're going to meet him one day. And the thing is that you got to realize that you are not, your parents are not the source of your creation. They only assisted in you getting here. That spark came from the divine, from a divine source. And you got to give up respect to that. You got to realize what that is. That soul came from a source. And your soul power, once you stop being so self centered and you start to give more and you start to realize that it's not about you, you gain in soul power. Once you realize you are part of something bigger, ah, you grow in your soul power because you are contributing to a pool which you also take from when you need strength. This adds to your soul power. Grow in your soul power. Yes, I'll say it again, by your words, because words are power. Word, sound, power. Words have power. Words are important because speaking truth, speak with power, speak with purpose, move with purpose, act with purpose. These things grow your soul power. Duck, take what you got.
look, I have nothing. You know what to do. Do it. Stop running from it. Stop bowing down to evil things that you know we should be worried. What they call in the Bible idolatry. Leave those idols alone. Now, ain't nothing else to say. I love y'all. Peace.
Yo, we want y'all to realize that soul power is where it's at. Get you some. Peace.